Friends, I welcome you to our today's session. This session is on structure of Indian banking system. As you already know, previously also we had discussed about this thing. Banking works as the backbone of the financial system. The entire financial system largely depends upon the strength of the banking system. Right, the people of the country, the citizens, and other sectors like corporate sectors, they have confidence when they have confidence in the banking system, the banking structure, or they get a kind of assurance that the banking structure is properly regulated, properly monitored. They have faith on the financial system. So, as you already know, through financial system and largely banking system, which is a major component of the financial system, you can say through banking system, the funds available with people gets transferred to those people who are in need of funds. That means if some people are having surplus fund, that fund needs to be transferred to other people who are in need, so that that can be used for productive purposes. We know that is a key role of the financial system. The financial system ensures this kind of liquidity or ensures this kind of movement of funds, and that is done with the help of banking system. People who are having surplus fund, they park their money in the banking system with the banking system, and they get some incentive in the form of interest. And people who are in need of money, they take that money from the banking system and they pay their cost, that is their cost of capital. So this cost of capital, or you see the interest component, plays a very important role in production of goods and services because it affects the cost. It's a kind of cost, is it not? So when you do any kind of business or anybody produces something with the in a business house, its cost of capital, maybe in the form of debt, maybe in the form of interest, or maybe in the form of cost of equity, has a great impact on the cost of production. Okay, things that means goods and services may become more costly because of this cost of capital, and the entire cost of capital thing is monitored by the banking system. Right, you are agreeing or not? If you look at the balance sheet of an organization, or you look at the financial statement, you can find out so many costs are there, but one major cost is definitely cost of capital, and that cost of capital has an impact on cost of production. Okay, so if the cost of production will be cheaper, that means interest rate will be cheaper, then cost of production will be cheaper means cost of capital will be cheaper. In turn, that means what I mean is the interest rate will be cheaper. Then cost of goods and services will also be cheaper. So that is how banking system is linked to all linked to the cost of production of all goods and services. Okay, so friends, let me show you the PPTs now. As you know, we'll be talking about the banking structure, and already I had told you before also. Let us first see the history of banking, which most of you might be knowing it here. So Indian banking was originated, as you know, you can see from the slide, in 18th century. Okay, we know this thing. Let us quickly recapitulate those concepts. So in 18th century, you can see the banking system. Banking system means here you can see the organized banking system was originated. And the first banks were Bank of India, which was started in 1786, and Bank of Hindustan, that is 1790. You can remember the name of these two banks. The General Bank of India and Bank of Hindustan. Right. But if someone will be asking what is the oldest bank, then definitely you may say the State Bank of India is the oldest bank, but when that bank was formed, the name was not State Bank of India. The original name was, can you read it here? What is the original name?
Bank of Hindustan?
No. Original name was, you can read it, the Bank of Kolkata. Bank of Kolkata. In June 1806, this bank was formed, but immediately after few months, its name was changed and name become what? Bank of Bengal. Okay, so this was called as a presidency bank, and there is other banks also like other presidency banks, like Bank of Bombay was there, Bank of Madras was there. So three banks. One is Bank of Bengal, Bank of Bombay, and Bank of Madras. And all these three banks got merged in the year 1921. And the name was, what is the name? Can you read it here? Imperial Bank of India. And on independence, upon India's independence, the name got changed. It becomes State Bank of India. This is the origin of State Bank of India. Okay, and there were many associated banks of State Bank of India also, like State Bank of Hyderabad, State Bank of Bikaner of Jaipur, State Bank of Travancore, like this. But all of them subsequently, recently, got merged, and there is only one State Bank of India. Okay, so merger, you can say, but we can say in the banking industry, merger started long back in 1921. Understood? Now you can say the origin of State Bank of India, we can say that is Bank of Kolkata, Bank of Calcutta, which become Bank of Bengal, then become Imperial Bank of India, then it becomes State Bank of India. Okay. Now, other banks were there also in India, like Union Bank in 1839, it was there. But after that, also one more Union Bank was there. Now, Union Bank 1839, but it failed in 1848. Allahabad Bank is another oldest bank. It was established in 1865. It was functioning till recently, but now it got merged with Indian Bank. That is again another old bank which was continuing till recently in the name of Allahabad Bank. Now, name is changed after merger, it has become Indian Bank. Okay, and there was one more old bank, that is Bank of Upper India. It was established in 1863, which survived till 1913. Okay, and after that it failed, and the assets and liabilities were transferred to another bank that was called as Alliance Bank of Simla. So this is the banking story, banking history of India. And you can see this newspaper cutting. This is the story of nationalization of bank. So you can see on the midnight of July 1969, 14 banks, private sector banks, got nationalized. That means they become government bank overnight. Okay, this is one phase of nationalization. Another nationalization happened in the year 1980. 6 more commercial banks got nationalized. Okay, after that, several merger stories are there. In 1993, Bank of India got merged with Punjab National Bank. Then Bank of Madura got merged with ICICI Bank. And then recently, you must be heard, State Bank and associated banks got merged. And again, government recently merged many banks like Allahabad Bank, Indian Bank got merged. Okay, like this, many banks got merged. Okay, now with this background, if you look at the structure of Indian banking system, this chart may be helpful to you to understand. Still, we have an unorganized sector of banking. Still, in urban areas as well as in rural areas as well as in urban areas, you can find there are money lenders who are privately financing various individuals, various business houses. The system is still there. Okay, so that belongs to the unorganized sector. Practically, there is no record of this sector. When it's sector organized, then we can have many types of bank, commercial bank, cooperative banks, rural banks, like this. Development banks, other possibilities are there. And we can have another kind of classification, which is called the scheduled banks and unscheduled banks. We'll be learning all these things. But I would like to draw your attention over one thing, that if you look at various laws in our country, it is very difficult to find out what is the definition of bank. We know it earlier also, that what is bank, it has hardly defined anywhere. But what is banking, that has been defined under Banking Regulation Act 1949. If you read here, it says banking means accepting for the purpose of lending or investment of deposits of money from public repayable on demand or otherwise, and withdrawal by check, draft, or otherwise. That means this. When you talk about banking, it means accepting deposits from the public. Okay, and these deposits are repayable on demand. That means you are accepting deposits, but when public wants, that needs to be repaid. How it will be repaid? By means of withdrawal. Public can withdraw, or public can write a check, public can ask for a demand draft, public can ask for a pay order, or public can ask for a electronic transfer. Anyway, public can demand it. All these are the various options of demanding money. Okay, so banking system means a system through which you are accepting these deposits. And what will the use of that money? For the banks. The bank can use it for the purpose of lending. Bank can lend it to others or invest it. So bank can lend it, or bank itself can invest. So these deposits money, the money which is deposited can be lent, can be invested also. This process or this activity can be referred to as banking. Is it clear to you what is banking?
Yes.
Is it? So now you must agree that is what bank exactly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now you must agree that that is what banks exactly do. They accept deposits from all of us. Those who are having surplus money, they can park that money there. Various options are available with the banks, right? You can park it in a saving account, in a current account, in a recurring deposit account, in a fixed deposit account. Various options are there. So one can park that money there. So they accept that deposit. If you want to deposit your money, they will be accepting it. Okay. And what will the use of that money? It will be used for lending. Either they will invest, either they will invest or they will lend. If somebody wants money, that money can be given to him as debt. So they have various products of debt. Debt products are also there. Like if you want a vehicle loan, it may be available. If you want a let us say housing loan, that's maybe available. If you want a term loan, if you want a cash credit, so like this, various kinds of loan products are also available. And banks also make investment. If you look at banks' balance sheet, you may find they also ensure that their wealth should increase. So in order to maximize that wealth, they also make certain investments. They may invest in in government sector securities, and they may participate in various markets. They may make investments also. That is what they do. So they collect money for the purpose of investment or for lending. This is the system of banking. And when you say this is the system of banking, then what is bank? That entity or that organization which performs this function, who does this banking, we can refer to that organization as bank. This will be our simple understanding of a bank. Is it? But under Indian law, if you want to perform this banking system, banking services, you have to get a banking license under banking regulations. Just like that, you cannot form a company and start banking. That will not be possible. Okay, you need a banking license. Is it clear to you? So those companies or those entities who are having that license, they can do banking. Now let us see let us try to understand the term of bank. What is banking? We have already understood now. Now let us see the bank. So I will say bank is a lawful organization. That means it is legally permitted to do this banking activities. That accepts deposits which can be withdrawn on demand. It's a lawful organization that will be accepting. Or you can say it can perform banking functions. These are institutions that help the public in management of their finances, public deposits, their savings. So people can manage their finances through bank. If they want money, they can get in the form of a loan. If they want to invest money, they can do it. And they can park that money in the bank. Okay, and whenever they require, they can withdraw money. So you know examples of various banks. So we'll be seeing names of various banks one by one. Now here, one kind of structure we can say. This is one more type of classification of the bank. One is, central bank, or the apex bank is Reserve Bank of India. And below that, there are, can have this kind of classification. Scheduled banks, which names are included in the second schedule of Reserve Bank of India. Then unscheduled bank, which names are not included. Then development banks like IFCI, IDBI, Exim Bank, CDB, NABARD, etc. Then commercial banks can be public sector banks, private sector banks, foreign banks, regional rural banks. Okay. Then examples of public sector bank, State Bank of India, certain nationalized banks. Okay. Other public sector banks. Then under cooperative bank category, you can find out central cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, primary agricultural cooperative banks, like this. This is how we can structure the banking industry of our country. Now, if you list out, these are the possibilities of various types of bank. Okay, central bank, Reserve Bank of India, cooperative banks, commercial banks, regional rural banks, also called as Grameen banks, then local area banks, specialized banks, small finance banks, and payment banks. Specialized banks are in fact financial corporations, popularly called as financial corporations. So we'll be looking into that. Now let us learn one by one about these banks. First bank is central bank. You already know. This is the Reserve Bank of India. Main function of the central bank to act as government's bank. It provides banking services to the government. And also it regulates other banking institutions. So the Reserve Bank of India is the regulator to other banks. It guides other banks. It also manages the issue of currencies. It also helps government in implementing monetary policies. It overall supervises the financial system. It is therefore referred to as bankers' bank because all the banks are regulated by Reserve Bank of India. It assists other banks. Okay, it manages the entire financial system. If you let me take you to the website of Reserve Bank of India so that you can have some idea about its functions. Give me a second for that. Are you able to see it? www.rbi.org.in. I am visiting. So you can find out this is the home page of Reserve Bank of India. Are you able to see it?
Yes, sir.
Now here you see so many links are there, so many tabs are there. You can see function wise different sites are there. So these are some of the functions of Reserve Bank of India. Okay, monetary policy, research and data also provided, issuer of currency, regulations, financial market, so many things Reserve Bank of India manages. And also you see policy rates. So these are the policy decisions of the government through Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India publishes this thing. What is the repo rate, reverse repo rate, marginal standing facility rate, bank rate, all these rates, all this decision helps monitoring financial system, monitoring financial market through this kind of mechanism, through these levers, you can say. Reserve Bank of India monitors liquidity in the financial market. Similarly, reserve ratios, they're also decided by Reserve Bank of India. What is the cash reserve ratio? What is the statutory liquidity ratio? That decides that banks has to give this much of money in some specified securities or in cash forms, so that their investment stays protected. Okay, Reserve Bank of India to some extent manages exchange rates also. Okay, there is a separate link which publishes the exact exchange rate. Then lending rates, deposit rates, you can see they also manages. Base rates means banks sanction their loans within this range. They may add little margin over that. Okay, so various kinds of rates are monitored by Reserve Bank of India. Market trends, you can see government security market rates like call money, government security market, treasury bill. You see all these rates are published by them. These are in fact the money market instruments. And then coming to capital market instruments, you see this is two major indices of our country, BSE, Sensex and Nifty. So their data is published by Reserve Bank of India. In addition to that, Reserve Bank of India publishes monthly bulletin, quarterly bulletin. You see, you can go to their publication ID. Various data will be available on economy, on the financial system. One can read it. It also publishes statistical data on some specific things. Time to time, they publish various notifications. And one more important thing, it also provides financial education here. Can you find out here? Link, financial education. So this is again one more useful link, maybe useful for you. You can visit there and understand various terms, various functions of Reserve Bank of India. This is, you can say, brief idea about the central bank of our country. Okay, got some idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay, friends. Now, yeah, having understood this, having understood about Reserve Bank of India, next category of bank is maybe we'll see this bank, cooperative banks, right? So there are some central cooperative banks are also there. Now we'll see these three tiers cooperative banks. One is state cooperative banks. At state level, we might have seen some cooperative banks like Odisha State Cooperative Finance Corporation like this. Or at district level, you can find out various district cooperative banks are there. Okay, might have had Cuttack Central District Cooperative Bank, Sundargarh District Cooperative Banks like this. At village level also, sometimes you can find some primary agricultural cooperative banks. So these cooperative banks are also there. These cooperative banks are in fact monitored by RBI as well as by NABARD. They enjoy some concessions from these regulatory authorities, that their CRR, SLR rates are little less. Okay, and they can finance at a little lower rate. So their regulators have given them some concession so that they can actively participate. They can compete with other commercial banks, right? So they are given supports by the regulators and as well as by governments. They are called as cooperative banks. Coming to commercial banks, so most of the banks we see in our day-to-day life of commercial banks like State Bank of India, let us say something like Indian Bank, ICICI Bank. So they are commercial banks. So their main objective is to earn profit. With profit motive, they do their banking business. Of course, they have other incidental objectives are also there. They have a unified structure and they're owned by government. When it's maybe owned by government or maybe by private sector. The commercial banks can be public sector banks, can be private sector banks also. They tend to all sectors means they do their business in the rural areas as well as in urban areas, right? So normally their rates are interest rates are monitored. They do not give any concessional rate, unlike cooperative banks. They mostly collect money from public deposits. That is their main source of fund, and that money they use for commercial purpose. They lend money out of this. And we can classify these commercial banks into public sector banks, where majority of the stakes are owned by government or by central bank of the country. Or it can be private sector banks, where majority of the stake is owned by private sector organization, individuals or groups, or that means it's equity shares are publicly traded. Anybody can buy it, that is private sector bank. Or foreign banks that are headquartered in some foreign country, but they have branches in our country. Okay, their branches, they have given permission to do banking in our country. They are called as a foreign sector banks. So you see, this is the list of private sector banks in our country. You can see 21 banks are there. Just have a look. Axis, Bandhan, CBS, CSB, City Union, DCB, Dhanalaxmi, Federal Bank, HDFC, ICICI, ICICI, okay, Industry, then IDFC, Jammu and Kashmir, Karnataka, Karur Vaishya, then Kotak Mahindra, Lakshmi Vilas, Nainital Bank, RBL, South Indian Bank, okay, Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, Yes Bank, IDBI Bank. So as of now, there are 22 banks in private sector. Got it? You can have a look at this list. These are the private sector banks. Okay, 22 banks. And I'll be showing you the public sector banks. You see, as of now, there are 12 public sector banks out there. BOB, BOI, Bank of Maharashtra, Canara Bank, CBI, Indian Bank, IOB, Punjab and Sindh Bank, PNB, SBI, UCO Bank, then UBI. Right, these are the public banks. There were, in fact, many other public banks were there, but now they are merged, and this is the post-merger scenario. So these are the only banks. Okay, these are public sector banks. And coming to foreign banks, so you may be surprised, there are as many as 44 foreign banks are operating in India. 44. Just have a look. Anyway, recorded video will be made available to you. You can refer to that. You can, at any time, you can pause the video. You can refer to the list. These are the various banks, foreign banks which are operating in India. Are you able to read it?
Yes, sir.
Font size is little
Yes,
small.
sir.
Okay, and here is a link which provides. By connecting this link, you can find out all the list of the banks which are operating in India, or you can search it from RBI website. RBI publishes this list. You can find it out, all the banks. Regional rural banks, they are operate mostly in rural areas. They give concessional credit to agricultural and rural sectors. So this concept was started sometime in 1975. Okay, and the Regional Rural Bank Act was passed. So these banks, most of these banks are the joint venture of central government, state government, or some commercial banks. Okay, so many RRBs banks are there. They normally they cannot open their branches beyond a geographical limit. Okay, they have that kind of restriction. So these are, as of now, you see 43 regional rural banks are there in India. So many banks are there. These are the rural banks. And there are many other banks. So now you see most of them are merged. For example, the Orissa, we had several regional rural banks like Baitarani Gramya Bank, Puri Gramya Bank. You might have heard it. So many Gramya banks are there. But now we are having Odisha Gramya Bank. So many banks are merged now. So 43 regional rural banks are there as of now. Now, friends, local area banks. This concept was introduced in 1996. Okay, they are in fact private sector banks with the main objective is to earn money. They are registered under Companies Act, earlier maybe Companies Act 1956 or Companies Act 2013. As of now, there are only four local area banks in India. That is Coastal Local Area Bank, Krishna Bhima Samruddhi Lab Limited, then Subhadra Local Bank Limited. There are three local banks, local area banks out there. And there are some specialized banks are also there, which are called, which are, you can say, a kind of financial institution, which is special objective, like SIDB, Small Industries Development Bank. Okay, so they are financing small and medium sector entrepreneurs. Right, then Exim Bank, they facilitate export and import finance. Then NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture Rural Development, they provide financial assistance in rural sector, handicraft industry and agricultural sectors. The National Housing Bank is also there in housing sector. So there are several specialized banks are like this. So these are examples of some financial institutions. like National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, Exim Bank, Export Import Bank of India, National Housing Bank, and Small Industries Development Bank. These are this kind of specialized bank, you can say, with some special objective these banks have incorporated. There are small finance banks. Intention is to finance small means micro industries, small farmers in unorganized sectors. These banks are governed by central banks, and these are the examples of some small finance banks which are operating in India. You can have a look at this. These are the small finance bank. As you can see, there are 11 small finance banks up there. Okay, AU Small Finance Bank, Capital Small Finance Bank, like this. FinCare. These are called as the small finance banks. And now, payment bank is one more concept. So this was introduced recently by Reserve Bank of India. So people can deposit money in these banks. They cannot have a loan facility. Okay, credit card facility, other things are not available. Only they can deposit money in these banks. They can withdraw money also. They are called as payment banks. And as of now, you see, RBI list publishes these are the 6 payment banks in India. Airtel Payments Bank Limited, India Post Payment Bank Limited, okay, Fino Payment Bank, Paytm Payments Bank Limited, Jio Payment Bank Limited, and NSDL Payment Bank Limited. There are 6 payment banks are there in India. Okay. Okay. Now, friends, now one more concept comes. What is a scheduled bank? What is a non-scheduled bank? Friends, you see, if the bank's name is included in the second schedule of Reserve Bank of India Act 1934, that can be referred to as scheduled bank. If it is not included, they can be referred to as non-scheduled bank. And this position changes from time to time. The bank may be a scheduled bank, particular time may become unscheduled bank also. So these are some examples, but of course, this is not the latest data. You have to inquire about the latest data, that these are the non-scheduled banks. Okay. Non-scheduled, these are the urban cooperative banks are there. And there are some rural banks are there, which are non-scheduled. So we have to, in fact, check the data as of now, which are the non-scheduled banks, which are the scheduled banks, we need to check. Okay, so in fact, this is the banking structure of our country. This is how banks of our country are structured. Okay, so broadly, friends, we have understood that various kinds of banks are there in our country with different objectives. The objective of commercial bank is not same with the objective of a rural bank. That also is not same with the objective of a cooperative bank. Different objectives are there, and their size also different. And the supports they get from government, the support they get from regulatory authorities, they are the different. So the purpose is that they're designed in such a way that they will be addressing the different problems of our financial systems. Okay, with this, we got a broad idea about the banking structure of our country. Next thing is that we'll be learning about the functions of banking industry and the role of banking industry. That is a different concept. So in the meantime, you can watch, you can continue your research and find out different banks, what is their category, what is their role. You yourself can try it. We'll be learning in your next session. Okay, friends. Any query you have? Is it clear to you? I'll ensure that this recorded video will be available to you. You can use it for your revision purpose.